Всем привет! С вами команда подкаста «Полетели». В одном месте мы собрали яркое студенчество, учебу по обмену и азиатскую культуру. Этот выпуск будет полностью на английском языке. The format of this episode is speed dating, so get ready for a dynamic conversation. And today we have a special guest. Hello, Ivan.
Hello, how you doing, Eugene?
Great. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm all right.
Nice. Could you please tell us about yourself?
Sure. What would you like to know? I work at PolyU. I've been here for 7 years. I've lived in Hong Kong for 7+ years now. I was born and raised in the U.S. Near the city of Chicago. And before PolyU, I lived in California, in Southern California near Los Angeles for 10 years. Before then, I lived in New York, Texas, the city called Milwaukee. If you know anything about basketball, you've heard of the Milwaukee Bucks. I was there for a few years as well. So I moved around in the US, landed in California with my family for about 10 years before I came to Hong Kong. But Hong Kong called me up one day and said, hey, we'd love to see if this would be a good fit for you to work at this university. So here I am.
So what are your responsibilities here in PolyU?
Okay, I've got responsibilities mostly for non-local students and with residential education. So I handle what we call co-curricular learning. So the things that the classroom might not provide, the things that the classroom doesn't require, I help the students understand those things. So they have to do with things like leadership, civic and social responsibility, things like intercultural learning, things such as emotional intelligence and communication habits, and how do we get along with our roommates, stuff like that, you know, and how do we actually think about benefiting society in a deeper way. That's basically the things that I teach here.
As you work with non-local students, why is it important for the university to attract exchange students?
Why is it important for the university to attract? Why is it not important for the university to attract? To me, it seems very organic and such a natural outflow of learning to attract other learners from around the world. That's the most natural answer. For me, it's a way to grow. It's allowing the students within the university to be exposed to other cultures and other ways of thinking, important perspectives that they might not know, and a way for other students from around the world to experience Hong Kong, to experience Hong Kong students and what this city has to offer as well. So there's a lot of exchange and a lot of exchange that we don't know about, but that can happen as a result of more exchanges and more students coming in and going out. So I think I know a little bit about how that works because I used to teach things like study abroad, education abroad, and service learning in my previous universities. And right now my role is a little bit different because I'm in a more of a closed residential and non-local student system. So I take care of what we call at-home global education or at-home internationalization. So when other students from around the world are coming to Hong Kong, they are coming to participate at the activities and the learning that happens at home in Hong Kong, right? So, exchange students are only here for a short-term stay. I wish they were here for a whole year because it takes a little bit longer to adjust, but I hope that they can benefit from all the things that Hong Kong has to offer them in such a short time. So we have a small window of opportunity to work with exchange students to make their experience the best that it could be.
You talk about your job with so much passion. It seems to me
I do. Okay,
you
good.
love it. And what do you love the most about your job?
Oh, students. I don't have to think about it. The students make it the best thing possible. Why? Thanks for asking. Because the students are the most eager to learn. If the faculty and staff were as eager to learn as the students should be, I hope they are, then, and I hope that faculty and staff are as eager to learn, then we have a great learning community. But I choose to do a lot of student-facing activities and meetings and learning events, because the students are the ones that build the passion around the world. Actually, to be honest with you, most of the good movements around the world, whether they are social or they are grassroots, or they help the environment, or they help with science and math and STEM areas in the world, usually are started by young people and student or university age people. So that's why it's a no-brainer for me to say, students are the passion and the reason why I exist, the reason why I work, and the reason why I'm here.
Thank you, Ivan. I'm going to present the next interviewer.
Okay. Thanks, Elena.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks, Elena. That was good.
You got a call from 4DU when you were asked to move here. But how did they reach you? You were 15,000 kilometers away. They're like, oh, we want to pick this one. Hey, like how did it happen? How did they call you, and like why did they?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say here, because I was brought onto PolyU in a more unconventional way, a little bit unusual, because it was through a connection with a guest speaker at PolyU. He writes many books on philosophy, on things like religious philosophy and things like that. He was my former student at my previous university. So he knew that he knows me, and we're still friends, and he told one of the deans here about me, and the dean called me up one night in the middle of the night, because that's the middle of the workday here in Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah.
So I got the call. I answered it. I was expecting a call to find out more about my life in the U.S., what I've been doing, and he wanted to see if it was a possibility for me to apply to be here to work in this kind of capacity.
It works. It usually works like that. It's really nice.
To be honest, most of my work, I have to tell you, I mean, I don't think I've really been very successful going the traditional way of getting hired. Like, my background is so unusual that I think it's difficult for companies and institutions and universities in Asia especially to look at me very favorably. Yeah, it's very unusual, and so it takes a lot of connection and networking to be able to find the kind of work that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. Talking about traditional ways, and when you were a child, you had a vision of your future. You went to college and got the degree, and you had some expectations about the adulthood. And did they come true?
Absolutely not. None of it came true. I have a Bachelor of Music in piano performance. I was going to be a orchestral conductor.
Wow.
It sounds a little bit random, right?
Yeah.
I was training to be a musician, a kind of a European classical musician in that sense. And the reason why I wanted to go into conducting was because I realized the leadership opportunities there. Piano is one of the most lonely instruments that anybody can play. Some people enjoy it because it is more lonely, or I shouldn't say lonely, I should say alone. It's more alone, but it is more, but because people have to practice alone, there's a lot of me time, there's a lot of, and I didn't particularly enjoy that, but I was good at it. So I wanted to continue it, but I wanted to go into conducting because of the leadership and the opportunity to influence other people, to make movements. You know what I'm saying? To influence cities and different places and different young musicians. I wanted to influence that. So I wanted, but instead, immediately after university, I just kind of forgot all about the music. And I went into, I was a clergy person. So I actually worked in different religious centers and churches. And I was a ordained minister and pastor for some time, mostly of youth, in very difficult parts of the U.S. So I worked with youth that had that were great and also had a lot of difficult backgrounds in the U.S., around the U.S., mostly in these cities that are sections of the city that were very difficult to work with. So I loved it. It was great. And then I finished my postgraduate studies. I received a Master of Divinity in Chicago. I went back to Chicago to finish my studies. And then I went to New York to work in another kind of a religious center. And it was great. It was a wonderful place. The community was great. We celebrated a lot. It was a wonderful community. And then I could not work there too long. I actually moved to California after meeting my engaged partner, my wife. And we got married in San Francisco, Bay Area. We actually got our first part of the marriage done in New York. And then we moved to California for 10 years. So that's my background. It's very strange, very different. And California was where I began to work with university students more. And so from that point forward, I worked with university students for the past 15, 18 years.
At the very end, you still influenced the youth as you were expected when you were in musician school?
No, I wasn't expecting to work with university students in that way. I didn't know this kind of job existed. I had no idea. I was not involved with student. I was not like one of you guys coming to a student affairs official and asking to interview. I didn't do any of that. I did other things. But now I realize there's a field in the U.S. that is different than other parts of the world called student affairs. And so I bring that background because it is a field of study. And in Asia, there is no such thing as a field of study in student affairs. There's no such thing. And there's reasons for that. I won't get into the background, it's too long, but it takes too long to explain. But in Asia, so that's why I came to Hong Kong, because I wanted to develop student affairs field in Hong Kong. And that, in that sense, I'm sort of a co-curricular educator. I'm kind of a beyond the classroom educator in Hong Kong. And that's different than any other Hong Kong student affairs professional. I'm the only native English speaker who works in student affairs in any university in Asia. You can look it up. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that arrogantly or conceitedly. It's just a matter of fact. And you can look it up in the literature. You can look it up around you. Nobody is a native English speaker. Now, all the native English speakers in Asia, in universities, are working in the academics, they're in different departments. But have you ever, I don't think you will ever find a native English speaker working in student affairs, because they typically select native Chinese speaking because they need it, right?
There are around 100 exchange students and 30,000 local. So.
Yes, and they need to be able to interact with other locals, the government and different things. That's what, so student affairs tends to be here just trying to manage the students. But I am actually trying to develop a vision for education with students that the academics cannot bring, or that the government does not fund that kind of education for Hong Kong or for Asia. Those are the things I'm developing. So that's really why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's the vision.
Yeah.
I never had that vision back then. I never had a vision when I was 20 years old. You know, I've only developed that in the past 15 years. That's it. Yeah.
Anyway, I think you're succeeding in this area.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can.
Somebody thinks so. I don't know. That's great.
It can be clear when you said this right now. It can be seen clearly
Right.
that the things you do,
Right.
at least in my outlook.
Yeah. Good.
And
Good.
like when I first met you, it was like 1st of September or so.
Uh-huh.
You told us that you live at the same dormitory at the same
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Why so? And do you live in the 21st floor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are a number of just a few actually of residential staff who live in those rooms, and then there are a group of wardens' flats that are also up there. This is also new for me because I've never had this in the U.S. before. I understand why they have it in Hong Kong, and it's a very interesting system because they have wardens who compete. They have professors who compete to be able to live in those places. I was just lucky enough to live because I'm a staff in the residences. So I'm just lucky enough to be there. But the professors have to compete in order to be wardens. You know.
Like, is it like the same rooms, or you have like entire flats, like one to the
Our rooms are more than twice smaller than the warden's flats, right?
Oh,
yeah.
But it's still bigger than the students' ones.
It's still bigger than the
Yeah.
students' one. Yeah, it's still bigger. Yeah.
And,
Do you want to know exactly how big? Or?
no. I'm just trying to figure out.
We do have a kitchen.
You have like right in the room.
Yeah. Yes, we have a. It's a full like a family flat.
Because I saw you nearby, but I have never seen anyone from the staff in the elevator.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I was
just come upstairs and maybe if we have time, we can show you around the flats. You know.
Just write it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like people want me to finish quicker, but I have like the last question. And I'm pretty sure the answer would be yes, but I want to specify. Have you ever had funny stories with exchange students?
No, not really. I'm just kidding.
Really?
So no. We have a lot of great stories. How many of you were at the BBQ, the barbecue?
No, we missed it.
You missed it?
Yeah.
All of you missed the Mid-Autumn Festival barbecue?
We might have been to Macau.
Oh, maybe you were
I'm
in
not
Macau?
sure. I'm not sure.
Well, you were having fun on your own. But we had a non-local student event in a BBQ. We had so much fun. I mean, we were just joking around all night. We had great drinks, great BBQ meats and everything, all you can eat. It was great. We really missed you guys. I remember not seeing you guys. I said, where is our lovely contention from Russia? But anyway, I was kind of upset that you weren't there. But it was a great time. Are there any funny stories? I can give you so many hilarious stories. I'll give you one example.
Yeah, that's the piece.
When we brought a lot of students from a university in Beijing, another kind of an organization with students, and then our PolyU students, we met up in St. Petersburg, and we did an exchange. It wasn't exactly an exchange program, but it was a special scheme for intercultural and infrastructural research along the Belt and Road, and we won a prize for that. We were the winner. The academic department and myself, we were the winners of that scheme, and we were able to bring some students there anyway. But it was really funny to see how Chinese students behaved in Russia, trying to talk in Russian, trying to speak a few Russian words. I won't even try to say, like many Russian words. I would look for English speakers, but I would try to say a few Russian words. But it was funny to see how our Chinese students interacted with our Russian student counterparts, because it was a cross-cultural laboratory, and when you do that, it's just funny. We were intended to laugh at it, you know, because we make so many mistakes and we eat so many things that we don't know about, and we make friends with people we don't know much about. So, I mean, the whole situation was just that when people are trying to help people understand what they're saying and they don't understand anything, it's a funny situation, you know? So that's, I really admire the students trying really hard while I'm laughing in the background like this, you know? But then we talk about it. The main thing is this, is that after all the humor, all the funnies aside, then we talk about it, and then students learn something about it. And our student counterparts from St. Peter the Great, you know, university, we talk about it. And we talk about what happened. What kind of mistakes did we do? Why were we embarrassed, you know? What kind of things can we do better in the future, you know? What can we learn from this? Then we talk about it, and then we develop a mentoring situation where students and I can really interact. So we have a good time, and then we talked about what exactly happened, and then we studied the intercultural principles that happen because of that. So I'm not only a native English speaker in Hong Kong, the only one doing student affairs, I'm also, I believe, the only direct intercultural teacher learner in Hong Kong, meaning that there are a lot of NGOs and other institutions trying to do some intercultural learning, but they do that mainly through exposure and some reflection. But there's not that many direct intercultural teachers in Hong Kong. So I teach those concepts, the principles. I do a lot of workshops and simulations. Those are all part of that you've seen on email. Those are all part of the programs that I have here that doesn't exist outside of Asia. It doesn't exist in Asia, sorry. It doesn't really exist in Asia at all. Not that I've seen. And I believe the literature reflects that. So that's the reason why I'm here. So as long as I can still breathe and I'm still kind of healthy, I'll keep doing that if university keeps allowing me to. And I hope they do. You know, let's see what happens.
We also hope.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Ivan.
Okay.
I left this place for the third one.
Okay, Ivan. All right.
Items for another matter.
So, hello, Ivan.
Yes.
I'm so happy to see you.
Good to see you, Sasha. What's happening?
Very nice. I'm very happy to talk with you and
you as well.
Thank you. And we talked a lot about students, about exchange students, and about different experience. And I'm going to ask you about, in your opinion, what is the most important thing to do for exchange students here in Hong Kong? What are the most important things to do? For example, like to study a lot or to have a very busy
you said you were not going to be boring, right? That's what you said. I'm just kidding. No, that's true. What's the most important thing?
Yeah. What do you think
for
here in Hong Kong?
For exchange students?
Yeah.
This is going to sound boring. You want to address the question, why do you want to study in Hong Kong?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why Hong Kong? Why not other cities? And why other cities as well? But why Hong Kong? And why do you want to study abroad? If you can address that question, then you can have a lot of fun. You know, because from that point on, you have a direction as to what you want to do in Hong Kong. You will be able to answer that question on your own with a few other people if you were able to address that question. Why do you want to study in Hong Kong?
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Continue. Yeah.
No, and then so everyone has a different answer for that as to what's the most important thing for exchange students to do in Hong Kong. Is that your question? What to do or to experience in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I mean, from your point of view, what is the most attractive things to do here, and what do you think about this?
Well, I think that students your age, I mean, I still find it kind of fun. That will enjoy some of the same things. I mean, it may be culturally, at first, culturally unintelligible. Mm-hmm. It may be misunderstood, but eventually you kind of enjoy some of the same things. You might do things a little bit differently. That's what the cultural experience is about. that you want to understand those differences and appreciate them, embrace them, understand them deeply. But in the end, you're going to enjoy some of the same things. So I'm not talking about speed dating, things like that. I'm talking about more like, and I'm not talking about just going partying in the same places. That, to me, that's kind of boring. You do that a little bit, but it's a little bit boring because all you do is just do exactly the same thing. Dance, drink a little bit, that's it. You know, meet somebody beautiful, you know, from, you know, that you might like to take, you might want to get to know, right? Okay, so, but eventually what you want to do is get to know a lot of different people. So if you want to explore the diversities in Hong Kong, then you have a chance to visit to experience why Hong Kong is different than, let's say, Russia. You know?
And all other cities in the world.
All the other cities in the world.
Obviously,
what makes it unique, and experience that as much as possible. Because then you know that whatever cities you ever visit in the future, you will find that to be very unique also, because you're looking for it. And whatever you're looking for, students from Russia, whatever you're looking for in Hong Kong, you will be able to find it because you asked the right question. Why do you really want to study in Hong Kong? What makes Hong Kong unique? And then you'll be able to answer that question more in the middle of the semester. At the end by the time you leave, you will be able to answer that question really well. And all of those things, all of your experiences will lead up to that. You've met a lot of Hong Kong people, maybe. You've interacted with them. You know what are the ways that they like to talk. What words do they like to use more? What foods do they love? How do they think about their families? What do they think about the economy and their future lives? What do they think about their residents and how they live? How do they look at people from a different gender or different orientation? How do they look at people and societies differently than Russians? And they do. I mean, just the way that you interacted with me in the very beginning shows me, it demonstrates how different Hong Kong students are from you. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And you want to figure out why. And you want to be able to understand it to the point where you can explain it. Like if you can explain it to other Russians and to yourselves and to other Hong Kong people, then your experiences is really, really rich and powerful.
Yeah, I see.
So instead of creating, if you only have one or two experiences from Hong Kong students, you're going to think that Hong Kong students are like this. Mm-hmm. But that might not be completely true. You want to understand the whole picture and not just one story. Why is it that when we have students from Russia, it doesn't matter which city they're from, but let's say a city with a lot of politics, let's say Moscow or St. Petersburg, I don't assume anything about our students from Russia. Just because they're from Russia and the things that are going on in the world about Russia, I don't assume anything about that. Because I know that everybody has a different angle, everybody has different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So, but you would want the same outlook on students from Hong Kong and from China too, right? Because our cities and our countries are so big and they're so different culturally that we cannot assume anything either. But the more that you experience in Hong Kong, the bigger picture that you will have.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we said some words about unique cities around the world.
Right.
And in my opinion, one of unique cities is my favorite city is St. Petersburg. Okay. You have visited this city. Yeah. And our university, like St. Petersburg, Peter the Great University. Mm-hmm. And can you say some words about your experience in St. Petersburg and in our university, please?
Yeah, I mean, it was the most horrible experience. I'm just kidding. It was a great experience visiting, being hosted by some of the student affairs and international education staff. We had some great, just wonderful times. I wish we had it longer. There was not enough time to get a whole feel of it. I did visit many different sites in St. Petersburg, especially some of the heritage buildings and that have a lot of historical significance. Wonderful to go through that, to learn more, and I just wish we had a lot longer time, because it's such a big city, and I want to experience more of the transportation. I wanted to experience more of the realities of the city. I wanted to see more of the different kinds of people. I mean, it was June, right? It was only 13 degrees outside, and people with their swimsuits are already out on the water in the little beaches that they have, because it's the warmest part of the year. Yeah. And so that's different for Hong Kong. I mean, already that's very, very different than Southern California, from Hong Kong, from Chicago. So, and I'm trying to understand more, and I just wish I had more time to experience more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's the best moments you give from St. Petersburg? I mean, what did you like most in St. Petersburg? Like, we understand that it isn't the weather. in June.
No, the weather was great.
Okay.
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. The cold doesn't bother me.
Okay.
And then, but I think the best part was sitting in a lounge late at night with other students. We mixed students and staff and professors, and we just had a great time interacting and getting to know each other. That was the best time. Having some drinks and just getting to know each other, where we're from. Most people don't assume that I have a lot of work going on in Africa, and so I had a chance to talk about Africa with some of our students, and then, of course, there's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions about every part of the world, including Africa. So I had a chance to clarify some of those things, and then they had time to clarify some of their own upbringing as well. And they were able to share about the cities they grew up. Some of them were from Central Russia, others from Siberia, other Vladivostok, and all the way to the east. I mean, very different cities, and we got to share a lot of our heritage and background. That was the best part of it, and just joke around, have a good time. In fact, that's all I remember. I mean, I remember the other tourist areas, and the things that I learned from the guides, but the most that I learned were just from other people keeping it real in their conversations with each other.
Yeah. I see. And I have one extra question, which is really interesting for me. Have you ever been in LKF Street? It's the most important, not important, but the most famous, I think, in exchange students, LKF Street, like the street of bars and clubs in Hong Kong.
In LKF?
Yeah.
In Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Have I been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I mean, that stuff you can find anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
In most cities around the world, right? So why would students come here just to go to the bars like that? I mean, I would suggest some other things too, By the way, I joked around with exchange students. I was like, why would, if you're coming to Hong Kong to party, you're in the wrong city. You know what I'm saying? Because there's not that many party places here. I mean, there's not that many. It's just not a big party city. It is a very serious financial district. The whole city is kind of like that. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the reality of Hong Kong. But there's a lot there's a lot in addition to that. But yeah, LKF is, you're gonna find those party districts in most of the world, so it's nothing new. But if you really want to experience something that's authentically Hong Kong, you're gonna have to look outside those typical tourist areas. You're gonna have to go to the backsides and understand what's really going on. That's what I suggest to students. So find other locals to go with you to those places, because then you will really find, those are the places that you won't understand at first, because they usually speak Cantonese. But if you're there long enough with those guides, they act as cultural mentors. They act as cultural informants for you, and they'll be able to show you around Hong Kong much better than me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we try to, as a non-local student group, staff, we try to have students go to those places too. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think we can change the person.
I think, as everybody can tell, you're a very welcoming, a very positive person. So I wanted to ask you, which qualities, by your opinion, does the modern successful student possess?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. Thank you for that. Give me a moment here to think about this one. No, it's because there's a lot. There's a lot of qualities nowadays with the world as complex as it is. It requires that we adopt more qualities and build on them, a variety of qualities. That's number one. So the variety that the students need to possess, the variety of qualities, is the first thing that I would say. That would give them some success and would set them on a direction that's really successful. That's the first thing I would say. So, but those qualities include things like awareness of self. So self-awareness, awareness of other people, awareness of one's own need, and at the same time awareness of other people's needs and desires, what they really want, what they perceive, empathy, having that level of compassion and empathy, and to be able to understand what other cultures, peoples, geopolitical states, what they're going through. Which is why I say, when we have students from Russia, I'm not going to assume how they think politically or whatever. It's the same if we had students from Ukraine. It's the same. But I want to understand how they are as individuals and as a group. So as a group, if they want to go to LKF, all right, that's good. Why do you want to go to LKF? That's great, okay. And then the next week they want to go back to LKF. So why do you want to go back to LKF? What is there that you haven't explored yet? That kind of thing. That's what I want to know. But to answer your question more, qualities such as openness. We want students to have a certain level of both certainty and ambiguity. So I want them to be certain and confident of many things. I also want them to feel that they don't know everything either. Like, that's what I mean, ambiguity. Not confusion, but questions.
So it's like the balance between confidence and
humility. Yeah.
Okay.
So confidence and humility, like I don't know anything. So a professor mentor once said to me, and he was an English literature professor, he said, "Ivan, I now know enough to know that I don't know that much." Yeah. And that is the beginning of my pathway. And I said, damn, I thought I knew everything.
Damn, that's hard to remember.
Damn, that's hard to remember, yeah. So, but I remember it because that's the only thing that matters. If I end up in the same place, like I know enough not to know much at all, then I know that I'm still on a good pathway to learn more. So if I'm in that space, both emotionally, mentally, and educationally, then I know that I don't have to worry about earning money that much, because I know that that people will enjoy my presence enough to be able to help me, financially or educationally or whatever it may be. So I'm not too worried about that. Mm-hmm. If I know that I have the humility and the confidence enough the combination of those two, to be able to survive well. Yeah.
Great, that's an interesting answer. Thank you. And one more question that I wanted to ask you: how do you think does the experience of exchanging changes the student's life?
Deep. No, this is a great question. It may not change a student's life, and I'll tell you why. It has been proven because of evidence in cross-cultural experiences that if the students go to a place, a new culture, and they don't have other people to guide them and mentor them through that culture, they may have some good experiences, but they very quickly forget about it, or they just don't have enough reinforcement in their learning to make it have a difference in their life later on. So if you want that cross-cultural learning to make a difference in your life later on, 5 years, 10 years from now, then you will want to have more guides. They can be local, they can be non-local, but guides who understand Hong Kong and the world to be able to guide you and mentor you all individually through it, so that your cross-cultural experience, your exchange experience in Hong Kong would be more meaningful. I'm not saying that it would be meaningless for students that don't have that. I'm not saying that, but the evidence shows us that you really won't have that impact. That experience in Hong Kong won't have that impact in your life unless you have other people who are impactful in your life. So it matters who the people are in Hong Kong that have been impactful in your life. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, that's very interesting. And where do we find these mentors?
That's why our team makes ourselves available to you guys, and we don't get paid for this extra. We don't get it. We just do it because we know how impactful it can be in your future lives, in the future for your life, whether it be for your families or for your work, for your job, for your marriages, girlfriends, boyfriends. If you can find that, there's other people. I mean, there are some instructors and professors who are very willing to be that for you on a limited basis, but in a, they some of them are very willing. The question is, can you find them? And the second thing is, from the university perspective, is how much can we give to these students? And I hope that we can give more. I'm not sure. I can only be mindful of my area, and so I encourage our staff and my staff to make themselves available for students, and they do a marvelous job of doing of that. I don't know how other staff, they have different managers, different directors. I don't know how they would do it, but I know it can change the whole country if we have 7 students from Russia have a great experience in Hong Kong, and not just fun, but also have fun like having been impacted by other Hong Kong people. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I know the exchange experience will be that much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and I'll probably pass the
All right, sounds good, Elena.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Which difficulties have you experienced during communication with partner universities?
Yeah, I don't do as much work in that area as my other colleagues do from, let's say, Global Engagement Office, because they have to be the ones to communicate directly with other partner universities. I have done that before in other universities where I had to build communication. I actually had to create the communication because it wasn't there before. So sometimes I would have to introduce myself and start everything from ground zero. But that's the beauty of it. I enjoy it a lot. I love liaising between universities. But I don't do that much here. They don't let me do that here that much. I wish I could do that more, but they don't really allow me to do that. If I could get a chance to do it, I would. But I think if the most difficult one is obviously the cross-cultural communication. To know what sometimes the universities look like they value the same things. Sometimes the 2 universities from 2 different countries look like they are prioritizing the very same things. But when you start talking more, that you probably realize that they're looking for something slightly different. Maybe one university is really looking to send more and more students out. But our universities, we have to accept as many students, exactly the equal number of students that we send to their universities. So so that might be one, issue to work out. That's a small thing, but to know what the leaders of the university are really looking for. That's one area. The politics within the universities are different, you know, from institution to institution.
Yeah, I've heard that there are like sometimes misunderstandings. You just right, but they get you wrong.
Right, right. Or I think they get me wrong, but they really do understand me, you know. Or I just misunderstand. I think no when they say yes, or when they mean yes, or they think we mean no when we really mean yes, that kind of thing. So, but there's a lot of that. If I understand some of the university cultures that I'm used to, let's say Russia and Central Asia, or other countries very influenced by Russia historically, I'll know that I would need to be quite direct and put everything out there. And I may look like a very passionate person here, but I will be a little bit more controlled at first. Not suppressed, but more controlled and not as expressive. But then later on, when we get together and we have the drinks in St. Petersburg, of course I'll express myself a lot more. But it's a matter of how do I approach different cultures in a way that they can understand it. What are ways in which St. Peter the Great, Peter the Great University can understand what it is what we are looking for, and what PolyU is looking for? How do they understand us? If we go about that way, then we bridge that gap very quickly, because I'm really trying to understand what they are looking for, and hopefully they're doing the same thing with us, but I don't know. At least we are doing that, you know what I'm saying?
You mentioned that in St. Petersburg you have like a meeting in the evening, informal one with other students. Is it common here? Do you meet with your colleagues, like with the other professors outside of the university?
I did more in the beginning. I haven't done that much lately. There's several reasons for that I don't have to get into, but I think I would love to do it if it was, let's put it this way, if the university can make that kind of interaction really meaningful, I would do much more.
Okay,
yeah.
That's interesting. So, do you know, maybe that's a secret, but how do people measure like the effectiveness of communication with a partner university? Are there any specific metrics and indicators?
Oh my goodness. You're asking questions that really a director of global engagement should address. And yes, there are many metrics. In Hong Kong and Asia, we tend to focus on the quantitative metrics for many reasons. Sometimes they think it's easier to measure, like how many. Let's say every year we increase 5 to 10 students who are on exchange, with our partner universities. Okay, that's one metric. It doesn't mean that they learned anything in Hong Kong. It doesn't even mean that they had a good time. It doesn't mean. It just means that the numbers look good. Okay, but the meaningfulness of it will be a little bit more of a long-term issue, because that means that if the students had a really meaningful interaction in Hong Kong, they may want to come back to Hong Kong to work someday. Let's say, what's your major, Anastasia?
International trade.
Okay, let's say you can find a job in Hong Kong that is meaningful, beginning job, maybe you get one promotion here within 5 years or something like that, right? And if you're coming back to Hong Kong, you are actually adding to Hong Kong's economy. You're benefiting Hong Kong. Actually, Hong Kong is benefiting from your work, from your knowledge, from all the transference of knowledge and experiences that you had here. And all of a sudden, that 5 years you are adding to this economy and benefiting Hong Kong, and cities benefiting you, that experience all of a sudden is exponentially much greater than 5 to 10 students, because that's the short-term metrics, right? So I think we have to measure the qualitative aspects much more in Hong Kong when it comes to exchange experiences, and we don't. I know Hong Kong doesn't because they're just mainly looking at numbers. So I'm encouraging other departments here, maybe through this podcast or whatever, to look at some long-term effects because Hong Kong needs to be stronger with long-term perspectives, much stronger. We have a history of that. China has a long history. They have a very long history and long view. But I think because of our neoliberalism and the way that our finances and economics work, we forgot about the long-term issues. And I think if we do that, then it makes our exchange experiences so much better.
Do you keep in touch with any of exchangers? Like, do you know someone who had just an exchange semester here and then came back to Hong Kong?
Sure. I mean, some of them are looking to come back, have a longer visa, like a work visa. Some of them are not. I have kept in touch with a number of exchange. I usually keep in touch with at least 1 or 2 or 3 exchange students every semester. We'd love to keep in touch with you guys. The thing is that yeah, they go on to endeavor doing a lot of amazing things. It could be in robotics, it can be in computing, it can be in technology, it can be in different industries. And sometimes I keep up with some of their own research and some of their work. It's quite amazing. I mean, yeah, I learn a lot because I'm looking at this stuff. It's not my background at all. I'm looking at this stuff that I don't understand it, but explain it to me. I want to know what the innovative thing about this is that you are working on. So it's a lot of really good, smart, intelligent exchange students come by that I think Hong Kong needs long term. And but Hong Kong has to be ready to receive more long-term exchanges.
Is he? Is it ready?
Is it ready? I always just say it could be more ready.
Okay.
All right. And there's many reasons why I think it's not yet a strength of Hong Kong. It could be. I think Hong Kong thinks it is more international than it is. So I don't want us to fool ourselves, you know? I don't want us to lie to ourselves and we think, oh yeah, we're really an international city. Are we really? Well, in some ways we are. In many ways we are. But in other ways, I think we have a lot of improvements that can be done, including keeping you guys here. But that's a different topic.
Do you have the book which had a huge influence on your worldview?
Wow, yeah, many. What's the most recent one?
Like, which one could you advise to us?
I've read a lot of faith-based books because of my own background as a clergy person. I've read a lot of more in the past 15 years, 20 years. I've read a lot of educational books. There's one on there's many on cultural learning and theory. There's a book on okay, how about this one? Transformations at the Edge of the World. Okay, Transformations at the Edge of the World, written by a friend of mine.
Okay. Can you shortly
say? Yeah, it's basically helping people understand how they learn from other cultures during an exchange program.
Whoa, sounds quite helpful.
Yeah. Another one, my colleague from the U.S., Richard Slimbach, has written a lot of books on cultural learning during education abroad or exchange programs. You know, they've written a lot on those things. Those are the kinds of books that I want to write someday in a few years. Now, I'm already writing some things, you know, and my wife was just telling me, hey, do a series of podcasts and then write a book on all those things. You know what I'm saying? That's the easy way to do it. I want to do that maybe. So, but yeah, those are the types of books, like it's called Transformations at the Edge of the World, and then another one is World Wise, Being World Wise. That's my friend Richard Slimbach's book on the student exchange and what you can learn from other cultures. That's a good one. Yeah, being world-wise.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting talking with you. Thank you for participation. Надеюсь, вам понравился этот подкаст. Мы будем очень рады услышать ваше мнение о нем в комментариях. Желаем вам хорошей недели, а мы полетели!